Greetings, viewers. I'm sure that most of you can agree with me when I say there is one thing that I cannot stand, and that is a thief. I go to work every day and I work hard for the things that I have that I intend to keep, and I don't like the idea of somebody that feels they don't have to work for something can just come in and take whatever they want because they just feel like it. So over the years, I have gone to hundreds of burglary calls, whether they are businesses, residences, or vehicles, and many of the times in any of those instances, one of the biggest things that is stolen are firearms. And it infuriates me when I come to find out how the firearms were stored or secured or not any of the above before they were stolen. So not only was something that may be important to a person was taken, it's also something that can be used to bring harm to others. So the idea of keeping firearms out of the hands of people that they don't belong in is high on my priority list when it comes to my personal firearms, and I hope that it's the same for you. If you clicked on this video link, then you're here maybe to get some ideas of things that you can do to help keep your stuff secure, so let's start talking about it. So for starters, one thing that I'm probably going to repeat several times, and that's going to be on purpose, is write down your serial numbers. And I don't just mean write them down on a napkin and stick it somewhere that it's going to get lost or thrown in the trash accidentally. Put it down somewhere so that you can get it at a later time that it may be needed. One thing that I've seen people do is they'll take a picture of it on their phone. Well, the problem with that is unless you have it saved somewhere on the cloud and you drop your phone in the toilet or get thrown in a pool, and all of a sudden that serial number is gone and you're going to need it and you don't have it. So in order to combat this, not only with firearms, but all of my personal property that I own, so I have an Excel spreadsheet that has the serial number and basic item description information, model number of every single thing that I own that has a serial number on it entered into it. And that spreadsheet is saved on the cloud. I can access it on my phone, my computer, wherever, whenever I need it. It's not in one specific place, again, written down on a napkin somewhere, and I have to wait till I get to X location to find it. I know that seems a little extreme, and I know you may be asking what that has to do with security. Well, to be honest, security is an illusion. People say locks keep honest people honest, and for the most part that may be true. However, if somebody is determined enough, they are going to find a way to get into whatever it is that you have, as long as they feel that it is important enough to do so. So again, back to talking about serial numbers. So let's just say, for example, that you have a firearm that is stolen, and you have the serial, model number, all the descriptive information that's needed to enter into a database that is a nationwide database. That information will be saved in that database forever until said firearm is recovered and removed by the agency that has entered it as stolen. I can tell you from personal experience on numerous occasions that I've had to handle calls where a firearm that was stolen 20-something plus years prior was recovered several states away, and it was either recovered during a crime or some other way, and the agency that got a hold of it ran the numbers, it popped up, hey, that was reported stolen out of X agency. They get in touch with them. Once the firearms return to that agency, they will take it out of the system as stolen and return it to the rightful owner, supposing that that person is still around. You have that information, it was reported stolen, there is a chance you can get it back. I can assure you that if you do not have your serial number and your weapon is stolen, lost, whatever, and somebody finds it and runs that serial number and it doesn't come back with some sort of status attached to it that's missing, stolen, whatever, chances of you getting it back are very slim to none. So again, number one, before you even go through any security measures, if you get a new firearm, keep track of your serial number. Put it somewhere safe. Put it in multiple locations that are safe and able again to be recovered. The spreadsheet that I explained may seem a little extreme to some, and yes, it was a lot of legwork in the beginning, but once it was created, anytime I got rid of something or got something new, all I have to do is add or remove said item, and it's done, and it's all updated and ready to go. And thankfully for me, I haven't had anything that's stolen. However, twice now I've had to contact my homeowner's insurance due to lightning damage. And guess what? I had all of the information already available for model numbers, serial numbers, descriptive information on everything. And I was able to get that information to them and get my claim processed quicker than if I had to go home and start reading off everything and looking it up from scratch. Again, you're here to talk about security. So write down your serial numbers, number one. Number two, operational security is a thing. Some of you may not be familiar with it and what it is. Well, the easy explanation for it is not blabbing about out loud or posting on Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media, pictures of your loaded gun safe or your arsenal, as the news might like to call it, regardless of how many firearms or boxes of ammunition you have, and letting people know what you have. So if people don't know that you have something that they might want, then there may be no determination for them to actually push through whatever security measures you have in place to get to them. So as tempting as it may be when you get a new gun or piece of equipment that you want to show off, think to yourself, is it really worth it? What am I getting out of this other than advertising to the world something that I have that some person out there might decide that is worth them risking their life for to get their hands on? So I can tell you that number one, putting a gun under your mattress is not a good secure place to put it. I know that is a common place, and I can tell you 100% that every single residential burglary that I have ever been to, the mattress on every bed has been lifted, moved, flipped over, because that's where the bad guys keep their stuff. That's the first place they're gonna look when they come in your house. So we can talk all day about security and all the layers that go to it and protecting your house and your belongings. What I wanna talk about today are securing firearms. So one other common thing besides, again, not being secured at all, i.e. under the mattress or just sitting on a nightstand or in a drawer, that's not secure. Anybody that makes entry into all the layers of security into your house and has access to it is unrestricted. The idea behind security, again, yes, it's an illusion. However, the more layers that there are and the more difficult that you make it for someone to get to, they then have to determine, is the risk worth the reward in going for it? So again, back to that operational security. If you told them what you have, they know what's there. One common thing that I see a lot of are these security boxes. They're fire boxes. They come in various sizes. This particular one is not very big. It has a carry handle and a simple lock on it. They're advertised to last X amount of time in a fire, and they're supposed to be secure. Well, I can tell you that this is probably one of the least secure things that I've ever encountered or seen. Again, even the larger variety that's a small safe. It's locked right now. I can't open it. This is great for keeping, let's just say, for example, you're keeping a handgun in here because you want to keep it out of reach of kids. That's a great idea if you're home and you're nearby and you just want to make sure that they're not getting nosy when you're not looking, keeping them from having access to it, but you being able to get to it because you have control over the key. That's a great idea. However, you have a firearm in this thing and you leave for work for the day and there's nobody home and somebody makes it inside. Well, they don't need to break into it. They don't need a key, number one. I'm going to show you in a second that the locks on these things are crap. And two, all they have to do is just walk out with this. They just take it, load it in their car, drive home, break into it, and then go throw the broken box into the woods when they're done with it. They don't know what's in there, but they're excited. They think it's going to be money, credit cards, passports, gold bars, guns. Many people just keep important documents like birth certificates, passports, home deeds, and things like that in there because they want something that's going to be protected in the case of a fire. But again, you know what's in there, so you think that it's secure and you're just protecting it from a fire, not thinking about theft. And it's the same thing again with those little safe-sized ones. I don't know how many of those I've found in the woods destroyed. Who knows what was in them or where they came from because, again, somebody just picked it up and walked out of a house with it, loaded it up in their car, and it was gone forever. And the owner's probably not going to get their belongings back. So speaking of the locks on these things being a piece of crap, let me move the camera just a little bit and then we will, I'm going to do a little demonstration to show you why they suck. All right, so this is just a little cheapo Sentry Safe locking firebox, model 1100 here. It's got a little cheapo wafer lock on the front. All right, it is currently locked. The lock works. You can see just, that's all it is this little rotating latch that catches on a metal bar in the lid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this thing, keys over here. So I've got the box up on its side. I've got my two tools that I'm going to use here. I'm just going to put a little bit of tension on the lock, put my tool in, I'm going to wiggle it. And the box is open. It's that simple. And you can see that this, oh, now it's locked again, but that's it. That's all it takes. All right, so when we talk about how to lock up your firearms and what is the best case scenario that you can have. So again, you've got other layers of security for your property. I plan to cover those in another video in the future. However, I figured this was important enough because it's happened enough and I want to get some education out there for those of you that may not be sure how to properly store your firearms. So as I mentioned, keeping them out of the hands of kids is a great idea. There are lots of accidents that occur because of curious children and unsecured firearms. And again, there's many guns out on the street that have been stolen because they are not properly secured. So there's a difference between securing something, again, while you're home and you're needing to get near it, but you just want to keep curious fingers off of it. One product that I'm a fan of is called a shot lock or something similar. There's other brands out there. It bolts to a stud in your wall and it has a basic push button combination to get into. It keeps it mounted in a way that you can hide it, such as in a closet behind your clothing or even just behind a door somewhere it's accessible, where you can mash the code in real quick and have access to your firearm, but it restricts immediate access to someone that should not be getting their hands on it. However, that's one scenario for when you're home. The second scenario is when you're not home, and let's say you work 8 hours a day and somebody breaks in an hour after you left for work. Well, they now have 7 hours plus, depending on your commute, to get into this thing. Now again, if they know there's a firearm there, they know what they're getting. That risk versus reward may be high on their priority list, and all they need to do is go to your garage, grab a hold of a giant pry tool, such as a crowbar or a breaker bar, get a sledgehammer, any other tools that they can do to mangle and break that thing enough to either get it off the wall or pop the locking mechanism open, and now they have a firearm in their possession because it was secured, but it was still exposed enough that they were able to get their hands on it. Things such as small biometric safes are great. Ones that have a fingerprint reader or even a quick finger button access, those are again good options. However, if they are not secured to the floor as well as in a concealed location, then they're doing you no good, because much like this fire safe box here, they can either just pick it up and walk away with it and find a way to get into it later, or again, if they have a general idea of what's inside it because it's exposed and they found it right away and they have time to work on it, they can use any sort of tool they want to beat and bash and pry on it or cut into it, and then your firearm is no longer secured. So number one, any type of device like that should be concealed, so it should not be visible as soon as somebody walks in a room. It should be hidden somewhere, best case where somebody cannot see it, and bolted to concrete. So again, it cannot just be picked up and walked off with. The more inconvenient it is, again, to get into it, it's that layer of security that makes somebody have to decide if it's worth the effort to put into it rather than just grabbing what they can and getting out before the police show up. My ultimate suggestion is a large fireproof gun safe, and the particular brand that I have is Liberty. I'm not necessarily biased against any other brands. There's multiple manufacturers out there that make good quality safes, and there's a difference between a safe and a gun cabinet. If you go to Walmart and pay $30 for a gun safe that I can stab a screwdriver through the outer wall of it and it's made out of sheet metal, that's not a safe, that's a gun cabinet. And I don't care if it has a lock on it or not, those things can be popped and pried open, much like a can in your kitchen that you're opening with vegetables or something in it. A good quality, heavy-duty safe, yes, they can be broken into. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you that they are impervious to attack and they're the be-all, end-all option. However, again, the more difficult that they are to get into, somebody would have to know or have a good idea of what they're going to get out of it to try and go through the effort to actually get into it. The big fireproof safes have double duty. Again, people use these things because they want to protect stuff in a fire. Depending on the fire material inside those safes, they will protect your items and your documents that are stored in there, as well as providing that level of security to keep somebody that's not a Ocean's 11 member from breaking into all your valuables and guns. So again, with those, definitely bolted to concrete with as many heavy duty bolts as you can. Put them in a location behind something. Make it so that it's not as visible and easy to locate. If you have tools that would be great for breaking into it, then you probably should keep those in a location where somebody wouldn't be able to find them as well. I don't know how many times I've gone to a burglary call where, again, the larger version of these fire safes is in the room broken open and there's the victim's crowbar and sledgehammer from the garage laying on the floor next to it. Again, none of these options are impervious to attack. I'm sure there will be many people in the comments posting down below how easy it is to get into these things. I get it. I'm aware. I've been there, done that, seen it, heard it. However, again, there is a difference between leaving a firearm laying out on your dining room table and locking it behind a safe that's hidden in a closet that somebody shouldn't be able to find easily. Which brings me to the topic of storing firearms in vehicles. I would say, just based on pure memory, that probably 90% of the firearms that I've had to report as being stolen came from vehicles. Typically the vehicles were not even locked and the firearms were just sitting in a door pocket or under the seat or in a center console, in the glove box, just laying there. I'm not sure how many of you are aware that one common trend, typically among juveniles, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, they'll go walking through neighborhoods, pulling on car door handles. If the car door is locked, they keep walking. They find a car where the door's unlocked, they open it, they rifle through everything. They go under the seats, they look in the glove box, they look in the center console, they pop the trunk, they leave everything open, leave all the lights on, grab whatever they think may be valuable, and they keep moving. That is a very unfortunate way to lose your firearm because it was just sitting in the car and you forgot about it. These are tools that can be used to save your life, but they can also be used to take somebody else's if they're left in the wrong hands. So please lock your stuff up. There should be no reason that you're leaving a gun in the car, especially unsecured in any fashion whatsoever. I can assure you it's not doing any good sitting there, and again, when it ends up in the wrong hands, you're going to be kicking yourself wishing you had done something at least even a significant amount. I do not typically leave guns in my car. The only time I do that is if I have some sort of security device, which I have right here and I'll show you in just a second, is if I go somewhere and, for example, the location will not allow firearms inside. Anytime that I travel out of town, I keep this with me, and it's a metal security box. It has a little 3-digit dial code on here that you put in, you turn this, and it pops open. It's got little cushion foam inside. It's large enough for a medium-sized handgun. It holds a Glock 19 and an extra mag perfectly. It has a cable that comes with it. And the purpose of this is I typically use it underneath the seat. And again, I do not lock this up in my car every day, and I'll go over that in just a second. So this loops around the bolted down seat frame of your vehicle, so it's not something that can just be lifted up and removed. So it loops around that. This goes inside of a notch here in the case. It's then locked. Spin the dial to change the code. And if somebody breaks into my vehicle, even if, let's say, I left the door unlocked and they pop it open and they start rifling around, they're going to find this. Chances are they're probably not going to have the tools to get into it. They, again, just grab whatever they can, throw it in a backpack, duffel bag, whatever, and keep on trucking. But they then now know what's in my car, so that's something to think about. Again, a reason why I would not use this as a permanent storage solution, because let's say somebody comes to your neighborhood and they break into your car and they find this. Well, guess what? Now they know what's in there. All they have to do is come back tomorrow with the tool to get into it. So not a good option. I typically only use this for traveling. Again, I went to a show recently and we got there and found out there's security, metal detectors. They're not allowing anybody in, even law enforcement. Nobody can bring a gun in that's not in uniform. So guess what? It's got to go back in the car. That's their business. That's their right to refuse service. So I'm going to follow their rules. There was security present. I'll leave it in their potentially capable hands. And I lock my firearm up in the vehicle in this. Again, if some opportunist comes along and can't get into it, that's fine, because guess what? I'm not going to be in town tomorrow, and it's not going to be, and my gun's not going to be in there locked up. So again, not a permanent solution. I just use that for traveling. So another thing with vehicle burglaries, so it may not be the people walking through a neighborhood looking for car doors that are unlocked. So one common trend, if you may not be aware, is thieves driving through places like shopping centers or gyms, somewhere that somebody either may not want to bring their purse in, or they've gone shopping, loaded some bags in the car, went back into another location, especially around Christmas time. That's common because somebody doesn't want to walk around with 42 bags from different stores with stuff in them, so they load them in the car, go make another trip somewhere else. All they do is they go around looking in windows and they say, well, there's a purse that's sitting right there on the front seat. Purses typically have wallets, cash, credit cards, passports, important things in them that you may not want stolen. They smash the window, jump in their car with it, and they're gone before anybody can even finish dialing 911. So keeping stuff out of visibility in vehicles is also paramount. There's a lot of crime in California right now, if you're not aware. If you've been sleeping under a rock, and there's many places where people are actually leaving their doors wide open on the car with signs that say nothing valuable inside, because they are tired of having their windows smashed as people go through looking for something to take. It's an unfortunate reality, but that's what happens where they live. There's even people that are so bold as to smash windows and grab stuff out of it while vehicles are moving in traffic. So you never know what you're going to encounter where you go, especially if you're traveling. So if your firearm is not on your person, it's out of your reach and not in your immediate control, it needs to be locked up. Again, that's serial number 1. As soon as you get a new firearm, record the serial number somewhere safe, because you never know what's going to happen. If someone gets the drop on you and you get robbed and they take your gun, the last thing you want to do is wishing that you had that serial number somewhere. As stated, no security measure is 100%. There is no lock in the world that somebody has not made a tool for or found a way to get into. Again, it may be more difficult, it may be a slow, tedious process, but nothing is absolutely 100% secure. ATMs are probably one of the most secure containers in the world, and people will go get a bulldozer and knock it over and take it wherever and manage to get into it. And guess what? Not as secure as you'd think, depending on having the right tool or not. So the best thing you can do, keep honest people honest and make it as difficult for somebody as possible to try and get into. I'm not crapping all over these things. I'm not saying they don't have their purpose or their place, but they need to be secured in a manner that somebody can't just walk off with it, because that doesn't do you any good. Again, we work hard for our stuff. We're responsible. We're law-abiding citizens, and we want to keep our stuff that we paid good money for. We don't want somebody else to take it. So keep it locked up. Just think about somebody using your firearm in a crime because you were not being responsible and keeping it secured. I definitely would not want that hanging on my conscience. So hopefully you found something useful or educational in this video. If there's anything that I didn't cover or you have more questions about, please feel free to ask down below. I'm always willing to do any sort of follow-up videos, or I respond to my comments and answer questions, again, the best that I can. Please, please, please write down and keep track of your serial numbers. Lock up your guns. Keep them out of the hands of children and people that do not need to have them in their possession. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.